Hello, children. All right, today we're going to be talking about research-based claims. And this is part one of a two-parter, um, which are the elements of argumentation. So how do you make an argument that stands up, that stands the test of somebody who's going to come in with the purpose of tearing down your argument? And so step one is having a research-based claim. These are required notes, so I will be checking them, make sure that you have them. And every day is a good day for a Batman picture, so I just included this. You can see Batman doing some research, and I thought, well, why the heck not? I was looking for a picture, we've got one. But our objectives today are for you to be able to understand how to use research to formulate a claim. So I'm assuming that's what Batman's doing in his picture. He's using research to formulate a solution to whatever problem he's working on. And then to write a claim that works as a policy proposal. So you should be able to understand how research works to make a claim and then write a more specific type of claim that we're going to call a policy proposal. So let's start with just what's wrong and what's right with research so that we can lead to those claims that we're talking about. So let's start with what's wrong. A lot of people do research this way. They decide on a topic, and then they decide what they want to prove about their topic, and then they go out and they look for information that supports their conclusion. That's how most research by most people is done. And the internet makes that super easy because you just say, well, this is what I think about this thing, and so I'm just going to go and I'm going to Google information that supports the way that I think about this thing. And they never really consider, is that information right? Is that information complete? Is that information up to date? Is that information even like just more than an opinion? And so this is the wrong way to do research. You cannot just start with a topic and decide what you think about it and then cherry pick your information. That's the wrong way to do things. I know that you'll see examples of lots of people doing that, and you should from now on say that's wrong. You should not do that. The right way to do research is to start with a topic. So the first step is the same. You decide on what your topic is, and then you question that topic. So you figure out, well, what is it that you really want to know about your topic? If your topic is, let's just pick an easy one, if it's smoking, using old-fashioned cigarettes, and this is research that's been done, which is why it's an easy example. Then maybe what you want to know is, well, is smoking healthy? Yes or no, right? We obviously know the answer to that, but there was a point in time when people did not know the answer to that. And so they had to ask that question. And so if you were going to do research on that, you would say, is smoking healthy? And then you would go out and find information that responds to your question about the topic. And you would try, just collect as much information as you can. Your question being, is it healthy? Is it not? You're not taking a side at this point, right? I know that we know the answer to the question, is smoking healthy? But if you are researching it, you have to divorce yourself from that answer and you have to say, I'm going to look at all the information. And after you've looked at all the information, after carefully accounting for all of your research, then you logically answer your question. So you look at all of the information and you say, based on this information, a logical answer to my question is this. And in the case of smoking, it's yes, it is unhealthy, right? But if your topic is different and you have certain feelings about a topic and your research leads you to challenge those opinions, you have to be willing to dislike the answer and still stick by it. And so it's really the hardest part of research is the research and then coming to a conclusion about your topic. And that's really going to be the focus of our research in this unit. So once you have done that good research, then you're going to be able to make a stronger argument by formulating what we're going to call a policy proposal. So you've gone through the steps. You've chosen your topic, you've asked a question, you've looked thoroughly at all the information, and you've come to a conclusion. Well, from that conclusion, then you're able to make what we call a policy proposal. And so you sift through the research to establish to establish all the information that's relevant, and you may find that you have contradictory information, but that contradictory information may still be relevant. Like I said, sometimes you come across or you come to a conclusion that you don't necessarily like. It's contradicting what you have thought in the past, or it's contradicting other information that you came across, but it's important to still consider it relevant. You can't just throw it away because it contradicts you. You have to look more deeply at it and figure out what it's actually saying about your topic. And then once you've done that, in your own words, you need to explain how the details respond to your research question. So to go back to our example about smoking, you look at all the information and you look at all the research that you've done, and you say, okay, my original question is smoking healthy? And you look at all the information and you see that overwhelmingly the information says no, smoking is not healthy. Then your last step is to state your claim, which is, in a sense, it's a response to your question, but we're going to call it a policy proposal, like I said. So it's a logical answer to your question. And so a strong policy proposal is going to do a few things. Number one, it's going to present a solution to a problem. So if your question was, is smoking healthy? And your research led you to say no, then you're going to want your policy proposal to propose a solution to that problem. It's going to be a rational claim, so it's going to be based on your research. It's not just going to be, well, this is the way I feel, so deal with it. It's going to be this is what the research leads me to believe is rational. And then finally, it needs to consider what is realistic and acceptable to stakeholders. And stakeholders are something that we're going to go into in some other notes. So I'm not going to be talking about a lot about them here, other than to say that they're people who matter to the solution to this product, or to this problem. So if we let's do one more example. If our hypothetical research question is, what is climate change and how do we avoid it? Then we would go and we would do all of our research, and we would find, the research that says what it is. It might, you're going to find contradictory information. You'd look at all that information and you'd come to some kind of rational answer to the question. Then when we formulate our policy proposal, we wouldn't want to write something like this. In order to avoid human-caused climate change, we should immediately stop using any devices that use fossil fuels, including but not limited to vehicles and power plants. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Like, it is not rational to make a policy proposal. Even though our research may point us in this direction, it is not rational to say, okay, let's stop driving our cars now. Let's stop using our power plants now. There are a ton of people who are going to push back at that, and it's not a realistic solution to our problem. Even though the research points to us saying, hey, look, it would probably be a good thing if we did this, it's not a reasonable policy proposal. A good policy proposal would say, okay, here's all our information that we got. Obviously, it would be best for us to stop doing those things, but it's not rational for us to stop doing those things. People aren't going to stop driving their cars. So instead, we could say, in order to avoid human-caused climate change, the state of Washington should pass and enforce carbon limiting laws and provide benefits for individuals and companies that actively participate in limiting their carbon footprint. Well, that's much more rational, right? It's not saying stop using carbon, because we can't. But it is saying, let's start writing laws that limit our carbon usage. Let's provide benefits to people who do limit their carbon footprint. And that's going to get more people on board, right? So our research has pointed us in a direction that then leads us to this policy proposal that says, here's a realistic way that we can solve this problem that has arisen based on our topic. And so that's really what we want to be looking for in terms of using research, using effective research to come to a reasonable, strong conclusion for the topic that we're trying to for which we're trying to solve a problem.